Mid-America Airport and Scott Air Force Base are taking in hurricane evacuees.
2 C-17s left from Travis Air Force Base. It's crucial for these response teams to provide critical humanitarian aid.
Wow, what a great crowd. This is phenomenal. What a great day to be an airman. What a great day to be an airman. Now I'm fired up. I just tell you, looking across this crowd and seeing all these great airmen wearing the cloth of the nation. I may not have met every one of you, but I feel like I know every one of you, because I know your purpose, I know your commitment, I understand your discipline, your service, and I'm thankful for all that you do. And I'm always reminded when the Secretary of Defense, he's got a one-liner that's always worth repeating, and he simply says, we are co-equal in our dedication to America. And that means at E1 to O10, we're all focused on the same thing. And so it's really great to be here with you. To General McNabb, sir, I can't actually, every time I do see you, I do think of that time in Afghanistan when you rolled into Kabul and we were all stressing about how we were going to make the timeline the President just announced in December and gave us, just a few months to get those troops in there. And it was the power, the magic, as he said last night, of United States Transportation Command under his leadership that made that come to fruition. So I always appreciate that. And thank you for all that you do today for this great association. And also Chief Kever. There we go, sorry, Mike. And our chairman, our president, I guess, chairman, president. And for General Miller, my favorite Air Force MAJCOM commander of all time, my neighbor and good friend and great commander of the Air Mobility Command. Thanks for the AMC ATA teamwork to co-host such a special event, and it's a real pleasure to be here. I know you've got the chief coming in shortly. It's actually pretty tough to be sandwiched between, the command chief of the United States Air Force, Chief Wright, a hard time seeing out here, what a dynamic speaker, and then to be followed by Chief Goldfein. What a phenomenal team. And as I listened to Secretary Wilson last night, I thought to myself how lucky the United States Air Force is to have that level of leadership after listening to your secretary and seeing General Goldfein operate firsthand as a member of the JCS tank in my time at the Joint Staff last year. What a phenomenal team. To all the senior officials, to all the members, to everybody that's here, thanks for being here. For my battle buddy, Chief Caruso, there he is, who's about to step out and retire, and Chief Williams next to him, and Chief Wright, there you are, I got you now. Thanks for your leadership. And General Cross, thanks, sir, for your leadership, but particularly I just want to congratulate you on induction this year into the Hall of Fame. That's phenomenal and so well-deserved. How about a round of applause for John Collins? Well, it's an absolute honor to be here with you today, celebrating the greatest mobility Air Force in the entire world. And most of all, for the opportunity to thank these great airmen that are so vital to our national security. So I came here this morning really to pay my respects. And I understand that each year you allow one token soldier to speak here. I think last year it was Abe Abrams. So I put on my best blue uniform and I came prepared to share a couple stories, the perspective of a soldier as well as the TRANSCOM commander. Now, I've got to tell you, I've never met a soldier in my entire career that did not love the United States Air Force. Since World War II, ground forces have operated with the confidence that no evil would come down upon them from above. And over the last 71 years, this United States Air Force has always come through. For me personally, I developed an affinity early on in my career for the Mobility Air Force, largely based on my time as a paratrooper and multiple deployments throughout my career. It seemed like everywhere I went, there were professional airmen at my side. The Mobility Air Force team carried me on their back. Every deployment, every airborne operation, and every redeployment. And so I have always had a fond admiration for this community specifically. And I assure you, having just come from Washington, D.C. earlier this week, that our national leadership recognizes this incredible Mobility Air Force, active, Guard, Reserve, as an integral part of every joint operation. So looking back over 35 years and thinking about my fondest memories, they were working with the United States Air Force on airborne operations. Typically a night drop, full combat equipment, regardless of the platform, that beautiful C-130, dirty bird that could do anything. That C-141, I'm showing my age a little bit here, but I know these guys over here understand what I'm talking about. It's amazing. You could put 20 jets in the air in formation, first pass through, have 1,000 paratroopers on the ground. Just absolutely amazing. And now, that impressive C-17, that Cadillac, that C-17. Anybody here, C-17 community? There we go. Now I have to say that we all must appreciate that the United States Army was the biggest advocate for the C-17, and we still love it today. So whatever the platform, it was a gray tail with the American flag. These impressive birds that could carry almost anything to the far corners of the globe. And when you needed it really, really big, well, then there's the C-5. Then there's the C-5. Okay. I thought I heard a couple guys from Dover out there. Well, as a paratrooper, I remember vividly the roar of those engines, the smell of the jet fuel, the pilots rolling with the terrain, the green tint under blackout conditions, jump commands, get ready, and the adrenaline. No matter how many times the adrenaline that would flow, that came with the blast of air when that door opened. And the awesome loadmasters, typically tech sergeants and senior airmen, run in the back of that plane, transferring the control of the door to the Army. Army, your door. A nonverbal expression that said something like, "You crazy son of a gun." And then it was green light, go. An opening shock, hopefully. A silent descent, all the noise went away, the waning sounds of the jet engines passing in the night, the shadows of the tree lines trying to gauge your landing. I absolutely love those air crews. They were just such incredible pros. And in retrospect, as I think about it, my time as a paratrooper, I never once doubted the competency of the crew and the capability of the iron. We instinctively, fully trusted this team of professionals with our lives. Now think about that just for a moment. Never did we doubt the professional competency and warrior focus of our joint teammates. And I assure you, that level of trust and confidence is true today in the remote outposts of Afghanistan and places like Syria and Kobani LZ, where ground forces have 100% confidence that the United States Air Force will be there when needed, because that's your track record. And it's these same crews of the Mobility Air Force flying gray tails with the American flag that evacuate our wounded. This is a picture of Major, now retired, Jeremy Haynes. Now, many of you may remember back in about August of 2014, Major General Harold Green was the most senior ranking member to be killed in Afghanistan. Well, Jeremy was his aide-de-camp. And there were 22 wounded in action on that day in a blue and green event at the Marshal Fahim National Defense University just outside Kabul. Jeremy was shot 4 times. In the triage, he was left to last, which tells you that they really didn't think that he was going to make it. He was never expected to walk. 10 months later, in the Pentagon Hall of Heroes, I had the absolute privilege of promoting him to major, and he stood to take his oath of office. Today, he's an icon of optimism, resiliency, and faith. He dedicates his time to helping other wounded warriors cope with the visible and invisible wounds of war. He can be the impressive person that he is today because of the professionals in this room that built a patient movement system capable of evacuating our wounded under the best medical care in the world. A couple months ago, Jeremy attended my promotion ceremony and asked me one simple thing. He said, "General, if you get a chance, just say thank you." So to our AE and patient movement teams, thank you. And to the crews that carry him, the CCATs and the professionals, thank you for what you do for the force. And it's the same crews flying these gray tails with the American flag that return our fallen to their loved ones at Dover's Port Mortuary during dignified transfer ceremonies. Our Gold Star families and the memory of the fallen should keep us all focused and is always a solemn reminder that freedom is not free. The dignity and respect associated with these honor flights defines us as a nation. And I can just tell you from personal experience, having spent time with families on the ramp, they are so grateful for what you do at a time that's inconceivable for a family member. Now, the essence of service, commitment, and professionalism is true of our air refueling community, these incredible flying gas stations. Nobody kicks ass without tanker gas. That's what I understand. They're rooted in the history of Strategic Air Command, with a culture of take off and die. Tankers are the lifeblood of our joint force, providing the ability to respond rapidly to crisis and essential to sustaining air power across the globe. I'm so impressed by these teams and the boomers that look eye to eye with the pilots of our most expensive and capable weapon systems. And I can tell you that this area refuel is the #1 topic when I engage with my fellow COCOM commanders, as well as the chairman and the secretary. It's our tanker force that is first to respond and enables global strike, the ability to launch bombers from the continental United States, strike targets in AFRICOM, and 35 hours later, after 15 refuels, return to the continental United States without ever setting foot on foreign soil. No other country in the world can accomplish that task. And then there is our incredible mobility support teams. Heroes in my book. Anyone here from the Expeditionary Center? There we go. General Gordy tells me that we should start every conversation on the joint deployment and distribution enterprise with an understanding of global en route structure. I agree. The very best strategists know that logistics leads maneuver. It is our en route support capabilities, port opening, maintenance, recovery, and repair, command and control at echelon to include the Air Operations Center that give us the agility to respond to the unknowns. Because history tells us that the future is unknown, unknowable, and ever-changing. What an incredible mobility air force our nation has today, and unquestionably the best in the world. I've been in the job just about 60 days. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting out to the wings. I haven't been to every one. I will commit to you at some point I will. But it just gave me a great sense seeing firsthand our incredible airmen, those professionals, and getting a better appreciation for the dynamics, right, between the demands of Father COCOM, Mother Service, and the balance between maintenance and readiness and crews. And I always say now, if I could come back and do this all again, I'd want to be a wing commander. I'm not sure they'd take me. So I'll have to stick to what I know best. Well, this team, you have an impressive history, replete with examples of where mobility air forces turn the tide strategically. In 1942, it was the Air Transport Command pilots that flew the hump that they talked about last night over the Himalaya Mountains from India to China to counter Japan's aggression. An extremely dangerous mission made more dangerous by the lack of reliable charts, the absence of radio navigation, and a dearth of information about the weather. Lost nearly 600 planes and crews in that operation. But it does remind me of the Vice Chairman's comment last night. Anything, anytime, anywhere. And on 6 June of 1944, the American landings, airborne landings in Normandy, were the first American combat operation in Operation Overlord. Paratroopers carried and gliders towed by the mighty C-47 Skytrain. And this audience knows well the story of the Military Air Transport Service during the Berlin Airlift. I just can't imagine a plane landing every 3 minutes, 30 minutes to download. In 15 months, 2.4 million tons of food and fuel. Most importantly, sent a strong signal to the Soviets that we would not be deterred and that we were serious about our friends and soon-to-be allies. We all walk today in the shadows of the greats like General Tunner. And even more recently in this group, I can think of over 20 combat outposts in Afghanistan that could only be resupplied by aerial delivery. Today, our ground troops still depend on our air mobility professionals to accomplish our nation's security objectives and preserve freedom around the world. There's no mystery behind the endurance and success of American liberty. It's because in every generation, from the Revolutionary War to this very day, brave Americans have stepped forward and served honorably in the United States Armed Forces. And it's forums like this, the Airlift Tanker Association, that serve to remind us of our heritage, but also that this, at the end of the day, is all about people, our greatest resource. And our people, soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines and Coast Guardsmen, are incredibly special. So to get a sense for how special, just read any of the Medal of Honor citations. Now, most Americans really can't quite understand why you would turn toward a grenade or a flare to protect your teammates instead of running away. And I'm often reminded of Sergeant Sal Junta. Junta, as you see here, was the first to receive the Medal of Honor since the Vietnam War as a living recipient. In 2010 in Afghanistan, in eastern Afghanistan, he found himself and his squad in a fierce L-shaped ambush, and with disregard for his own life, he rescued Sergeant Brennan from the hands of the Taliban. In an interview with 60 Minutes, which I find quite fascinating if you ever get a chance to watch it, just listen to what Junta had to say.
This is Brennan with Junta just a few days before the ambush. There was no one on the squad he was closer to, and it was Junta who would save him from dying in enemy hands. In the midst of the ambush, he ran head-on into the Taliban guns, through their fighting positions and into a clearing where Taliban fighters were carrying Joshua Brennan away.
15 months in the Korengal Valley, it was hell on earth.
This was the view from their tiny base looking out into the valley, enemy territory for as far as they could see. As the soldiers listened to the Taliban on their radios, they now sounded more confident, and what they said was chilling.
They were saying, we want a body, let's get a body.
We want a body?
Yeah. They wanted to see if they could get an American body this time.
Based on diagrams we obtained from the U.S. military, this is what happened. At least a dozen Taliban fighters executed an L-shaped ambush, firing at the soldiers from two sides simultaneously, pinning down the entire unit in an instant.
What kind of soldier are you?
I'm average. I'm mediocre.
You're mediocre?
Yeah. This is only one moment. I mean, I don't think that I did anything that anyone else that I was with wouldn't have done. I was in the position to do it. That was what needed to be done, so that's what I did.
This is the single greatest honor that the military can bestow on its own. And it comes right from the President of the United States himself. That's pretty good for a mediocre soldier.
Think how good the great soldiers are.
Think how good the great soldiers are. Wow. Or think how great the good soldiers are. Just absolutely incredible. So, Junta and others, matter of fact, I think General Charlie Coolidge is here somewhere, like his 97-year-old dad, who in World War II, as a dismounted infantryman, decided to take on a set of panzers of the German army. Just absolutely incredible across the force. And they characterize the exceptional ethos of our military warriors throughout the joint force. And the fact is, just like Junta said, they're sitting to your left and to your right today. This audience, you, with the same culture and the same ethos, would do the same thing. And I couldn't be more proud of what you represent. So it shouldn't be a surprise that in poll after poll, our military service members are highlighted as one of America's most trusted and respected professionals, worthy of the public trust. You see, in this audience today, and across the force that you represent, of our air mobility professionals, it's through your service that you demonstrate that responsibility comes before privilege. It's through your service that you honor those that came before us in this great heritage. And daily, you demonstrate your incredible strength of character, competence, and commitment to freedom and the democratic values our nation was founded upon. You understand what it takes to give more than you take and be part of something bigger than yourself. And I would just ask you for a moment to consider the tremendous pride that Americans take in your success, their airmen. So I'll close it up. One thing this audience truly understands, and I appreciate, is the Mobility Air Force's ability and agility to deploy an immediate force tonight, clearly providing a strategic comparative advantage that enables the United States to project military power globally at our time and place of choosing. A credible deterrent that should signal to any foe or potential adversary that it would be foolish to challenge the United States of America. And as your TRANSCOM commander, I also fully recognize that when crisis emerges, my first call is to the largest, most immediate, most agile component, the air component. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do every day for our nation. I have full confidence that together we will deliver.